Hi, welcome to On the Ridge, Seminary Ridge Museum and Education Center's web series, bringing you interesting stories of race, religion, medicine, and war from the 19th century and beyond. My name is Michael Aaron. I'm the Gettysburg College intern here at the seminary over the summer. John Buford is perhaps known as probably the most famous soldier at the seminary during the time, but multiple divisions and regiments of the 1st Corps ran by the Seminary Ridge and fought right outside the front doors of Seminary Ridge. One such brigade would be Biddle's Brigade, and in that brigade is the 80th New York Regiment. They're in the 3rd Division, 1st Brigade, under Biddle. They're actually the only regiment in Biddle's Brigade that is from New York. They also have the highest proportion of wounded soldiers in the seminary at the time. So how did this New York regiment end up with all these PA regiments? How did they fare here at Gettysburg, and how did they end up afterwards? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about. First off, the 80th New York started out as the 20th New York Militia and actually were able to keep that regimental title throughout the entire war, even with a special order from the Secretary of War, because they were like that before and they really wanted to keep their 20th, they were really proud of their 20th Militia. They also were called the Ulster Guard, named after the county in New York they come from. This regiment was a lot of Irishmen. Ulster County is a direct correspondent to Ulster County, Ireland, where many of the immigrants came from, so there's a lot of Irishmen in this unit. They were mustered in 1st April 1961 for a 3-month, and then immediately right back in September of 1861 as a full 3-year regiment. They were led throughout the entire time, and even the entire war, by Theodore B Gates, who at the time is a lawyer and attorney, also a major in the militia, and he immediately becomes the commanding officer of the militia. He survives till after the war, writes a very good diary and a very the actual first regimental history for the 20th New York. He's even given a sword and a sash and other things by well-to-do Ulster County citizens after the war for his great service in running the unit. One of the men that come in with him at the beginning is John Cook, who's a captain in Company I. He's a school teacher, and he writes about his experiences here at the seminary, how we know a lot of what he did. And another man, Edwin Finch, who's kind of a surgeon. He kind of travels around. He's a self-proclaimed frontiersman, says there was never a better regiment to put on the Army Blue. So he's kind of an interesting character. Let's flash forward to Gettysburg. Late July, Reynolds himself asks Gates to join his 1st Corps, and he ends up in Biddle's Brigade. The day before they get here, June 30th, they are told, pack 3 days of supplies and head toward Gettysburg. Some men, they are told so quickly that they're washing their clothes in a nearby creek and have to hang them on their bayonets as they walk to the seminary to try to dry their clothes. As they get here about 11 o'clock on the first day of the battle on July 1st. They're dealing with Heath's division at the 1st, and they end up running from the Emmitsburg Road here to the swale behind McPherson's Ridge and toward McPherson's Ridge. They end up pushing back Heath's divisions and go pretty far. They actually get to about between McPherson and her ridge. They get to the Harmon Farm and take hold of a farm for a small time. At this point, they're a split command. Biddle has been minorly wounded, so he's kind of split his command. He's commanding 2 regiments, and Theodore Gates is now commanding 2 of the regiments, the 20th New York and the 121st Pennsylvania. Eventually, the Southern counterattack by Perrin, among others, ends up pushing them farther and farther back as they leave the Harmon Farm, leave McPherson's Ridge, and fight through this swale of McPherson Ridge, end up back toward the seminary. This fighting is not without casualties and hard stuff. One of the men that has washed his clothes and is drying his clothes is shot and killed. One man's hometown friend dies and tells him to tell his mother that he has fallen in the field of battle and has not been a coward. The Treat brothers, one of the Treat brothers ends up passing away and says to the other one to stick to the colors and tell my father I didn't die a coward. Cook is so confused in this hard fighting and this chaotic fighting that he doesn't realize they're retreating until he sees the colors falling back. And as he falls back, he sees another captain, John McMahon, he says is one of the best officers they have. He ends up seeing Captain McMahon, him and other companymen of them in the 121st Pennsylvania end up carrying him back until about half of the men fall and stop carrying him as he realizes that the Confederates have come back past the seminary and started firing at them again. In a slight distraction to the Southern men, he drags McMahon to a ditch, says a fawn goodbye, and runs through the town toward Cemetery Hill. McMahon will eventually survive, but he is discharged in 1864 for medical reasons for a wound here at Gettysburg and Chantilly. By the time Cook gets back to Cemetery Ridge, he started the day in his company with 27 men and ended with 5. Though they did lose ground and lose many men, and Perrin even said it was some of the worst fire that he's ever seen from his men, they did hold hold long enough to set up a position in Cemetery Ridge and Cemetery Hill and make the rest of the battle a little bit easier for the Union. At the time, Gates actually wrote about this in his diary, but his diary is pretty limited, especially on the first day. The only thing that's different about his diary on the first day is that he mentioned his horse was shot with 4 bullets at the time. The second day, him and Cook end up as like mini ambulances, and they try to find as many wounded soldiers as they can in the field and try to help them and bring them back to a field hospital. And then they also fight in Pickett's Charge, and there's multiple stories of that. Gates kind of writes a lot more about Pickett's Charge, and even Cook writes about it, where he lost his sword, and years later, whenever he passes away, his kids actually find his sword engraved with his name in a pawn shop. So the sword is returned to him after losing it at Pickett's Charge many years before. After the battle, Robert Logren, who is the surgeon of the 20th New York, actually becomes the head at the Seminary Hospital. So he ends up helping as many people as he could there. Gates is praised by Abner Doubleday for his maneuver, his stand, and his cover of the retreat, falling back from the seminary. Gates ended up as a military man for the rest of his life. He's actually the mayor of the town they came from. He's also the president of the Veterans Association. They say when he passes away in 1911, they actually say that he fought for his country, not for fame, for high position, but for holy principles of right, justice, and humanity. And actually their monument is just behind me past on the ridge there. There's a small monument with a circle top that has a hand on it that says, "This hand for my country." And this is a homage to the Ulster County, Ireland flag, and their kind of symbol. It means a great warrior in battle. It also is just kind of it means a symbol of a bloody hand on a banner. So they use that in their monument back there, and this hand for their country kind of symbolizes the great valor and bravery of the men of the 20th New York. Thanks for joining me on this installment of On the Ridge. We hope to see you on the ridge soon.